Gotta give it like the 3 second delay for YouTube to catch up with everything else. All right. Hello, and welcome to episode number 22 of Cheat Code Radio. We are in the aftermath of the E3 that's not E3, but totally could have been E3. Yeah, it's been an exciting week. Tons of announcements, tons of games, tons of absolute metric tons of things to talk about. And just another exciting week in gaming. And this we're going to talk a little bit of FTC, Activision Blizzard stuff. Let out your collective groans now to start off the show, because there's some updates for stuff there this week that Ivan will be heading the discussion on. And then, of course, we will be talking about the Xbox showcase that just transpired and our thoughts on that as well. But introducing, as always, the intrepid, the exhilarating Mr. Ivan Seiler.
I'm not sure about exhilarating, but okay. Hey, everybody. Anchorman, Ivan. Yeah, we have a really interesting show for you guys. We want to talk about some really cool stuff from the Xbox showcase and the ensuing showcase Armageddon that happened afterwards. We got a couple of things we want to talk about there. We're going to kind of we're putting our game of ranking topics to the side for the moment, just because we want to cover all the stuff from the show that we saw yesterday, and really just go into some of this really cool shit that the Xbox graced us with. But first, before we go into all of that, we had some interesting FTC CMA kind of news that happened. I don't plan to take more than like 5 to 10 minutes on this, just because it's a lot of stuff that happened. I want to throw this out there because I think it's important that you guys know what happens, because we are in the end game right now. It's going to get a little nuts over the next few days, so keep that in mind. Nick and I are not lawyers. We don't have really law degrees like that. I mean, I have business law, but not the same thing. At least in terms of how detailed this gets. But I want to give you guys a little bit of a rundown of what's going on. So, Nick, here's what's happened. Starting yesterday, technically today yesterday from the UK side of things, but Sunday for us, there was a rumor that was going around that Microsoft had reached a deal with the CMA. Which is something they said, like, the CMA has been very adamant about saying, like, there's nothing you could do to offer us that could make things better. We don't want to have any oversight over you. We don't want to be watching you over the next few years to make sure this goes through. They basically wanted a very hands-off approach of, no, we just blocked the deal and it's over. They have been very adamant about that. So there was this rumor floating around. I don't know if this is true or not, but it's a catalyst event for everything else that happened. The CMA supposedly has reached an arrangement with Microsoft, and they are going to announce that supposedly sometime this week, which would mean the CMA is no longer blocking the deal between Activision and Microsoft, which would mean that Call of Duty and the rest of those titles would fall under Microsoft's Xbox division. So what that did is it got a lot of balls rolling in terms of what happens next. Because of this, there was a discussion that Microsoft was going to close early, meaning that, hey, we got the CMA done. We're going to go ahead and close this with the FTC. Because with the way the FTC works, and we've talked about this before in the show, is that they will close deal. They don't actually block anything. They just will sue you. You give them notice. They say, hey, you got a year. If they don't sue you within that time frame, then there's nothing they can do. But unless they actually take you to court, they can't actually stop you from doing anything. It's different from everywhere else, like where the UK or wherever else, like the European Commission, wherever. If they block the deal, you have to go through an appeals process to do that. It doesn't work the same way with the FTC. You announce it, and it's either sue me or move on. So I understand it's a little confusing because we're talking about Canadian versus U.S. politics, but that's what's happened here so far. So because of that discussion, about Microsoft potentially closing the deal this week, the FTC panicked. We got a rumor thing that started around about noon that the FTC was looking to file for a preliminary injunction to block the deal permanently. They also changed that into, they officially announced around 4 o'clock, I want to say this afternoon, Eastern time, that they are going to be filing for a preliminary injunction against Microsoft for the Activision Blizzard deal. Now, there's a couple of wrinkles in this, which makes this interesting. The FTC's case wasn't supposed to happen until like August. And the FTC's been holding out on this for the longest time. They basically announced they were going to block it in like December or November. And Microsoft has repeatedly asked them, like, hey, is there anything we can do to make this, to change your mind? What can we do? They asked them that back when they initially announced that they were going to sue to block. And they said, no, there's nothing you can do. We're not interested in talking about it. When the European Commission came out and did this and they announced this, they said, we're still not interested. We're not going to do anything about it. And now they've been keeping this in like this internal administrative court within the FTC, which is not a part of our judicial system. They've been doing this separately. However, because it's stuck in that separate system, they don't have any real power to do anything. And Microsoft's been waiting for a reason for that administrative court, which is the one that's set for August, to move it over to federal court. So what's happened is that the FTC has said they are going to federal court now to get a preliminary injunction. Now there's a couple of wrinkles to this. A preliminary injunction is basically saying, hey, we need everything to stop immediately. No more pushing forward on this deal. Nope, you can't close it right now until this court case is settled. That's what they're pushing for right now. However, the wrinkle in this is because remember that the Gamers lawsuit from a couple months ago, that's been going on for a while, where you had like the 6 guys in San Francisco, and they were like, we found out they were backed by Sony lawyers, and they were also filing for a preliminary injunction in appellate court because their initial court case was denied, and so they tried to appeal it. So went to the appellate court with a Judge Corley who oversaw it in this particular district. They denied a preliminary injunction saying there's no actual harm being done to you in the meantime, so no, you can't get a preliminary injunction to stop Microsoft. This is the same court they're going to have to go, the FTC is going to have to go to try and get their preliminary injunction to stop Microsoft. So, well, this is also the thing, too. We're not quite sure if that's really the case, but there's only 2 courts you could do that in California because that's where they're going to be doing this motion. Okay. That's where Activision Blizzard is based out of. Since they're based out of California, they have to go to California to do it. And they can either go to Activision Blizzard's home district, which they're like, I think I looked it up on a map somewhere. It's not far. Like, they're very close to each other. Or they can go to the same court where they lost already for the preliminary injunction. So because the FTC has done this, they have accelerated this court case and have actually gone to federal court. So they have to get something, it's called like a PTI or something like that. I forgot what the actual wording is, but it's like this temporary preliminary injunction where it's like, hey, we're going to take this to the federal court and we're going to file for a preliminary injunction that takes a couple weeks to do. We want this like temporary thing to block the deal until we get the preliminary injunction, but it's like a very short turnaround period. It's like 2 weeks. If they can't get that, that means that the federal government has effectively sided with Microsoft and the deal can go through this week. So that is where things are currently. Things have escalated way faster, and this is what Microsoft has been waiting for, is just to go to federal court. Because the FTC has a track record of failing here. Remember the Meta Within case? Where Meta tried to buy the VR game Within, I forgot what it's called, but it was like it was like an exercise game, and they tried to block it. But what happened in this case was they went to appeals. They got their PTI or whatever it's called, but didn't actually get their preliminary injunction right afterwards, because you're supposed to have it so it's seamless, so you're blocked under something. So what happened is that Facebook went through with the deal during this little gap period before the preliminary injunction, and it was over at that point. And they couldn't do anything to stop them. So this is going to be very interesting to see how this goes.
So
they haven't done anything yet. They just announced that they're planning to.
So hold on. So based off like the Meta situation and everything, basically what you're saying is that they can, if there's a gap where they don't have a preliminary injunction, Microsoft, if they just close the deal within that gap period, if the FTC basically isn't blocking them properly and through legal channels to the 100% T, Microsoft can close the deal in a gap, and then the FTC can't do anything about it.
Yep.
That's wild in a legal sense. Like that is insane. And you would think the FTC would be good at this, because like that's a really big like margin for error if you mess that up.
And they have a history of messing things up, so this is not like really a surprise at all. So a couple little wrinkles in that again. So technically right now, Microsoft could go and still close it anyway, because they haven't done anything yet. So they could go and close the deal right now, but this looks really bad that if the FTC says, hey, we're gonna try to block you this way, and then you do it before they do that, it just looks really bad. I think with Microsoft, they were looking to see who was going to move first, the CMA or the FTC. And it looks like the CMA is going to change their mind and be forced into this, meaning the FTC is completely alone. But the other thing, too, to also think about is that this case is so screwed up, because the FTC's case has nothing to do with the cloud gaming market like everywhere else has been talking about. It has only to do with console harm theory. That, if you do this, you'll hurt sales for PlayStation and you'll hurt the market as a whole. So the problem with that is that no other jurisdiction has mentioned that whatsoever. The EU and the UK have said that's not a problem at all. And in the US, that's the only argument they actually submitted. So that means the FTC is probably going to lose this because they have no backing. And literally every other regulatory board is saying you're wrong.
So basically, in a world where if the CMA and the FTC kind of stacked up on the same issues, they might have an argument to be had. But since CMA has, set their stone on the cloud market and looking to the future of what that space may look like, and the FTC is focusing on the market as it stands right now, it's a kind of like divided you fall scenario, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're really, that argument is really, really weak, and it's probably going to lose. So this is going to be another thing that also it hurts Lina Khan as well, because she's had nothing but losses this entire time. And this is going to be the biggest profile loss so far, and it's not going to look good. But yeah, like for Microsoft right now, their plan is, if assuming the CMA thing's going to happen, if the CMA changes, I think right now that the goal is, if the CMA changes first, the FTC they're gonna try to find any loopholes to close this deal and get it done with, and just let it be over. Then after the other way around happens, with the CMA as being a holdout, now Microsoft has got the FTC in court where they're like an 80% chance of winning this court case.
Mm-hmm.
And so once that happens and it's over, the CMA is also alone. It's literally the situation Microsoft's been waiting for, where now you're there's no more standstill, and you force the FTC to act.
Right.
So this is good. Like, this is not a bad thing at all.
And it's well documented. I know I was keeping up with it a bit last week that Microsoft's been meeting with various members of the UK government, making arguments against the CMA. I know regulatory is very different in the UK. It's actually kind of independent of government. But if people don't think that, the Prime Minister of the UK can't put pressure on the CMA, you're kind of crazy.
Yeah. It's going to be a little nuts. So,
and
yeah, that we'll probably talk about, because we could see some really big movement in the next week.
Well, and I think some things really fell into place with Microsoft with this deal in terms of public opinion. I think that whole stint where you saw, and like, don't get me wrong, nobody was going to do anything about it, but when all those U.S. senators started taking an invested interest in Sony blocking an American business out of something for some like hoorah American points, that really helped their case governmentally, because it just makes the FTC look like they hate American business.
And like that's the same exact thing with the CMA. It's like they literally pointed out to make them look like you hate business in your country.
Yeah, and
so,
I think Microsoft's just feeding into that very gently, where they're like, hey, you're either coming with us or you're not. And like the thing is like, there's so many different legal hop skips you can do that they could use in the UK to get this deal done. And I really wonder, and I'd love to sit down with an actual lawyer and ask them what the actual possibility would be. Like, so if you want to close in the CMA, since there's this cloud concerns, can they get away with buying Activision, just not putting the cloud stuff in there? Like, just being like, oh, in the UK, you don't have access to the cloud stuff because the CMA is worried it'll hurt competition.
Yeah, you can very well do that. That's entirely legal on their part, because if that's what your whole argument was. It's like, oh, well, we got to protect the cloud gaming markets. Okay, we'll bow out of cloud gaming in your market.
And it is also interesting how Xbox rolled PC Game Pass into GeForce Now, too.
Yep, they are totally prepared for that. So
yep, their ducks are in a row, and I've been up and down on whether this deal's going to get done, but I'm sorry, the faith in the American government to stand up is let's keep it a buck here. That ain't going to happen. Microsoft money talks, and the FTC will fold, and the CMA will get undermined by its own government beneath it. You have a right-wing government in power in the UK. They're not going to risk pissing off a multi-billion-dollar corporation when jobs are already hard enough to come by.
Yeah.
And I definitely don't see Activision Blizzard or Microsoft losing a lawsuit on home court for Activision Blizzard either. And then if they take to the same court that, the gamer lawsuit already lost in, well, you're making the same arguments, but just with a different party.
Yeah.
So,
well, let's clarify. They did not lose there. They just did not get a preliminary injunction.
Yeah.
So, because right now the goal of that lawsuit is to get some money, because they're not going to stop anything.
So what are these guys hoping for? That Microsoft has to pay for their next 5 copies of Call of Duty on PlayStation?
Well, I followed a little bit of what the judge says, Judge Corley, and they were very clear that like this deal going through, Microsoft has had no track record at all of when they buy something that they get rid of all the products on any competing platform. They just don't have a track record of that.
No.
So like the argument they said is like, okay, so, and they asked this question. I just remember this is the one that stood out to me. Is they asked the attorney like, hey, look, if this deal went through right now, this very second, and Microsoft actively came out and said, okay, no more Call of Duty on PlayStation, could you play your current Call of Duty game on PlayStation right now? And they had to say, yeah. They can't. It's like they're not going to take it away. They're not going to take away all the old games and say your licenses are gone now. So
well, and that's the thing is like when Microsoft bought Bethesda, I remember a lot of us were like, will they pull stuff off the store? Like what is the game plan going to be? And they've made it very clear, like Elder Scrolls Online on PlayStation, you're still getting all the same content. Fallout 76 players on PlayStation are getting all the same content. And I think that's actually helped their argument of this continuity, and also releasing, games on PlayStation Plus, like Wolfenstein Doom and stuff, being in a competitor's service. Like, they're making arguments for themselves that they're not walling people off.
Yeah. They do a good job.
They're not taking stuff away that's already there. Future stuff, now that might be a, a discussion, but we'll wait and see how that all rolls out. But yeah, that's a neat little update, and we'll definitely have more to talk about this next week.
Oh, definitely. Well, we're most likely to get some big movement this week, so this will be a little wild. So, all right. So we got some cool stuff from the Xbox showcase. Also some Summer Games Fest stuff, but I don't think did we talk about that? No, we didn't talk about Summer Games Fest at all, did we?
No, but to keep it a
there honestly wasn't much. The only cool things that happened were just like Space Marine 2 gets a 3-player co-op campaign. Sweet.
Okay, that was the one thing you noticed.
Worthwhile, really.
Yeah.
All right. But I mean, yeah, there was some small stuff, but I mean, Jeff Keighley didn't have a lot, honestly. It was like, okay, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, worst kept secret ever. Like, okay, fine. But other than that, like, there just wasn't much there. I saw people were saying it was worse than the PlayStation show. I'm not sure about that, but
I mean, Mortal Kombat.
Okay.
Mortal Kombat looked damn good.
It did look good.
Mortal Kombat's the one fighter I buy because they have it casualized enough that even my terrible skills can have fun with it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think it looks fun. It looks like a good time. What else do we get? We got some Street Fighter, I think, there. Is that right?
Street Fighter 6, I believe. Yep.
Final Fantasy Rebirth.
Mortal Kombat. I'm trying to think. Hold on. Try to pull up what we had for coverage on the site here. Final Fantasy Ever Crisis, new Warzone stuff, Fortnite Wilds. That weird Exoprimal Street Fighter crossover. The sequel to Yes Your Grace, which looks interesting, but that's more of a me thing. Okay, so I'm gonna gush about this for one minute. Baldur's Gate 3 revealed their new villain, and it's Jason Isaacs, and I'm ridiculously excited about that. He's literally playing a demonic, corrupted politician, and like I know he's typecasted as hell to do that, but like, really excited about that.
Fine. You and I talk about this a little bit too. It feels really weird because it feels like, because we know that like Baldur's Gate 3 is in like early access for PC right now, and they're bringing this game to console for PlayStation right now.
Mm-hmm.
And it just feels really weird because literally everything they've shown specifically for like at these events is not gameplay. It is showing like actors and little things, like things that the PC community will be really excited for. But like they are not doing a good job of selling this game at all to the PlayStation community, because it's just like I don't even know what the gameplay is like.
No, and you know what? I think that's the funny thing with how Larian markets specifically. Like, Larian doesn't market their games to a mainstream audience. Larian markets its games to its fans. Like, Divinity Original Sin 2 was very similar in how they marketed that. And Larian, just how they do games is way different than basically anyone else. And, I'll be interested to see who picks it up on PlayStation. I really hope people do pick it up on PlayStation, because, like, you're talking RPG pedigree, Larian is pretty damn high. But yeah.
Top 10. Top 10.
Oh, easily. Divinity Original Sin 1 and 2 are absolute classics. But yeah, I definitely think I agree with you. They're doing a really poor job of selling it to a new audience. Especially since, like, even if you sit there, and I really hope people don't sit there and go and watch gameplay for Baldur's Gate 2 and go, oh, So it's going to look like this. And they're going to go in and go, oh, it's not like that. Because it's essentially Divinity. It plays the same way Divinity Original Sin does, but it's Baldur's Gate. So, yeah, hopefully, actually, we won't see more of it really. They showed more at the PC Game Showcase as well, and they're like, oh, here's the actual city of Baldur's Gate, and did a bunch of cool stuff, and once again, like you said, just did not do a good job of selling it to people who aren't already invested in it. But hopefully it does well. Summer Games Fest also had the Lies of P release date and demo, which was kind of cool. The demo is really good.
Yeah, I played it too. I thought it was enjoyable. It's like a better Bloodborne. So that's the best way I can do it. Best way I can describe it.
I'm not doing this with you.
But it's true, though. It's all these quality of life improvements. And it's like, guys, this is the closest you're going to get to a Bloodborne 2. Just get over it.
Yeah, like, God, honestly, it is the closest thing people are going to get for a Bloodborne 2. Like,
I think the part that's throwing me off is they took an Italian tale and set it in like what feels like 1940s France.
Like, I have to. I feel like a lot of the time period stuff kind of gnashes together. Interestingly,
yeah, the time thing is weird because they're all wearing like Baroque period like garb, and it's just like this doesn't look like Italy at all, like or even like a fictional Italy. Like it just feels so weird, but it works. It's not like a real place.
It honestly feels like what Americans think Europe is.
Yeah. That's right. Oh, no. Moulin Rouge. That's what it feels like.
Yeah, actually, that's
it feels like if the entire game was taking place in an even more depressing Moulin Rouge world. So
even more depressing. Oh boy. Actually, the one other big Summer Games Fest thing we got to see more of it today at Ubisoft Forward. Prince of Persia's back.
Yeah, cool. The weird choice for song, but other than that, it was cool.
Yeah, I dug it though. It was cool. It was definitely it's interesting to see Ubisoft finally admit that like Prince of Persia is an IP that they do indeed own. That is a long-standing IP they've been sitting on. I remember when they shelved it, they were like, well, we can't keep making Prince of Persia games because they're too similar to Assassin's Creed games. So what do? They make a side-scrolling 2D style Prince of Persia game that's very similar to the Assassin's Creed ones they made before. Yeah. But no, I think it's cool. It's good to see the IP return. Hopefully that Sands of Time remake when we see it in 2029 looks great.
Oh God!
As long as it doesn't
get Xbox, dude. Let's get to Xbox.
You want to get into Xbox? You want to get into Xbox? All right, into the Xbox.
All right, let's take a look at the Xbox showcase. Let's do our. I'm going to pull up an article that kind of goes through each one here. But I mean, also, holy hell, they started off blasted. Like it just if they ended after the first 15 minutes, and so that's the end of the showcase, I would have been like, all right, that's good enough for me. I'm out. Like that was such a solid like showing.
I utterly appreciate the fact that they worked the word wanker into the first 2 minutes of an Xbox showcase. Yeah, so you know what? Let's just start with Fable. Because Fable kicked it off, right?
First thing, which all the teases were true. So
yeah, I'm gonna need Aaron Greenberg to continue lying like that for future showcases. Because I have to admit, I was still really pleasantly surprised. We did a lot of pre-writing for Lords of Gaming in terms of stuff we thought we would see, so we'd pre-draft articles so we could get them out faster. And I didn't pre-draft a Fable one because in my heart of hearts, I was like, it's not going to be there. Like, no, it won't be there. And then when it opened with Fable, I was like, dog, if they're opening with Fable, what's the rest of this showcase gonna look like? And
Yeah,
like just knowing that they tonally understand Fable is what made me so happy.
mm-hmm.
Because like Playground games, like don't get me wrong, Forza Horizon is an incredible franchise. But the dialogue and the stories that are very short in those games are cringy as all hell. And I would be lying if I was like, yeah, I'm a little worried what you guys are going to come up with. You know, what you guys is like humor is going to look like for these games. Because like humor is paramount in Fable. And I'm not going to lie, I think they really nailed it out of the park. I understand a lot of people want to see more in-depth gameplay segments in terms of like UI, what's the game going to look like, and, you know, in-depth, chunky stuff. But for a first look at it, I was incredibly impressed with what they showed.
And I think it was great seeing Richard Ayoade from IT Crowd on there.
Mm-hmm.
Just 'cause that was the perfect casting just to get the tone right of what they're shooting for. Like that is good Fable.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited for it, like even more so before. And just like even like the little gameplay segments, I went back and watched the gameplay segments that they had there. Like they're very short little snippets. I mean, they're all like I know there was a lot of complaints about like this isn't gameplay. It's like no, it's gameplay. It's highly selective gameplay, but it's a gameplay trailer. So you can't be mad at that really. But even then, like some of that stuff looked incredible.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, holy crap! Like this, like these are the types of games that are competing graphically with every other major exclusive release that's been coming out. So it just looks incredible. I was just amazed.
Yeah, it's been really interesting to watch that. Playground has been able now keeping in mind the racing team and the RPG team is separate, and like let's also keep it 100% here. They have hired heavily on the RPG team in order to build and flesh that out with people that have made a wide variety of RPGs, from former Obsidian developers to former Sony Santa Monica developers. To they have a wide breadth of really high caliber talent working on that game. So to see it looking so good, man, I'm excited to see what the future holds for it, honestly.
Oh, definitely. This is going to be very impressive. Can't wait to see more from that. Then the next thing we had that was announced was South of Midnight, which that we were talking about before. Like that was like one of our long shot things. Like, oh, Compulsion. Like, oh, for me it was a long shot. I think it was yours. It was more probable. So tips, hats off to you, sir. That was correct. Again, incredible. I was just like, this is great art style. And I was just like, just to know what it is was just, I just absolutely love it. It's just oozing just this nice Southern Gothic vibe. And I loved it.
See, what I love, and those first two games hit something that I haven't seen from Xbox in a long time. It's tone and not necessarily style, but environment building.
Mm.
Like, don't get me wrong, like Xbox has put out some good games. Like I enjoy State of Decay, Halo Infinite's good, etc., etc., etc. But there has to be a game where I sat down and went, damn, they nailed this. Like setting, music, everything. That trailer was perfect. Even how they managed to swing like the Compulsion Games is like a grimy sign in the background, so that it didn't take you out of it with a big logo plaster.
Mm-hmm.
It was really cool to see not only them deliver tonally, but a diverse title. Like, it wasn't, hey, here's a first person or third person action game with another generically, average looking character or your own create a custom character here. It like was very tonally picked. And like the music and everything, it blended perfectly together. It's what I've wanted from Xbox.
No, it's exactly right. Like it is just it's something that they've needed to have, which is flavor.
Yeah.
And because a lot of their games that they end up showing off, like we don't get those flavor titles at all from Microsoft. It's like, okay, I know this is a platform. This is nice. All right, I can get an imprint myself. It's all right, fine. All right, we move on from there. But in terms of like, hey, look, this is a actual environment and a world, and it just is oozing culture, is just something that they just don't do a good job of. And normally what they do is they partner up with other people to get that from them.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that the best part is that this is first party now. It's not like a situation like Contraband where it's like, oh yeah, like we announced a partnership and we have this game coming out sometime, and it's like we don't show you anything at all. And like, oh okay, fine.
Yeah.
And like that deal could fall through and they move on at any point. But this is in house. This is internal. It's pretty much guaranteed. It's a nice change of pace for us to have as Xbox fans.
Yeah.
So.
And like I said, it's just nice to have a game. Like, don't get me wrong, I love a lot of Xbox Studios games because they really have a heavy focus on gameplay. But you can have great gameplay and nail settings and nail story tone. And like coming at the gate with 2 heavy hitter single player games really set the tone for this as well.
Okay, what else? What else do we have next? Then, like, also the first 15 minutes, still, we saw Star Wars Outlaws from Ubisoft. This is like, I think it's like one of the only games that we saw that didn't have a Game Pass deal attached to it.
Mm-hmm.
So that it's like, okay, it's a open world Star Wars game. Looks cool. Not much else to say about it for me, at least. All look fine. Like, all right, cool. Star Wars, open world, fine. They showed more from it today with the Ubisoft Forward event. I only caught bits and pieces of it, but it looked fine. I know there's a little bit of skepticism going on in the community if this is what the game's actually going to look like in the future, but we'll see.
See, I'm a little less leery about it because it's Massive. Massive has a pretty good track record of delivering. Games looking like they looked when they showcased them off. I'm really interested in this one because, like, I want to, like, there's so much focus. I understand, like, Respawn does an amazing job with Jedi, like the Jedi Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor and everything else, but, like, I always felt like when I was playing Star Wars games, I never wanted to be the main character.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I just want to be a dude. Like, you have, like, oh, the Death Star is going on. Well, I'm, smuggling this stuff through the galaxy while, the Death Star stuff's going on, right? Like, I really hate main character syndrome in Star Wars games. And this one looks cool, and it looks like it's going to be just like a blast in the Star Wars universe, which I'm interested in. Like, I don't want to be the savior of the galaxy. I want to have the ability to be like a smuggler, bounty hunter asshole. I don't know. If it delivers on that, I'm all for it. But it's Star Wars, so it's I'm either gonna love it or I'm gonna hate it, because there's no in between with Star Wars. Unfortunately, I either love what they're doing or I'm like, why are we doing this?
Yeah. So that's also like what's really cool there is that they did confirm what time period this is, because the thing I'm personally so tired about, I am so tired of Star Wars games being set in between Revenge of the Sith and New Hope. I am so tired of that time frame. It is so boring to me. I'm like, just do anything else. Any other time frame is perfectly fine with me. I would love to see something different. I think that's why I like The Mandalorian so much comparatively, is because Mandalorian is just, it's set right after Return of the Jedi. It's all like, all right, cool. awesome. Now we got something interesting to talk about, something to look at. Okay, we get to see the future going on, and we get nothing if we keep stuck in this in between time frame because you know how it's going to end, and it's like, ugh, sick of this. Can we have something else, something different? So it's a nice change of pace to see that they're doing something a little different. So this is in between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi.
That's a really interesting time period because you're talking like the Empire's at its strongest. Rebels are kind of beat back into a corner. Yeah, that's gonna be an interesting time period to play with.
Yep, it'll be a lot of fun.
Plus, you get furry axolotls. So, like, what more do you want?
Yeah, that thing is gonna. I guarantee that thing is gonna be like a Build-A-Bear thing. Like, oh my gosh, they're gonna have some sort of tie-in. That thing is just way too cute for its own good.
Yeah, so Disney has definitely figured out after the whole Baby Yoda trend, if you give someone a small cute thing they take everywhere with them, you could sell the hell out of that merch.
So, yep, that'll be fun. But yeah, okay. What was the last thing that we had before Sarah Bond came out? Was it
Payday 3?
No, I think that was it. Yeah, then Sarah Bond came out. But Sarah Bond, the heir apparent of Xbox, apparently. So, yeah. I'll ask this question. Do you think we're at the end of the Phil Spencer era right now, or do you think we got a couple years left with him?
I don't think he's done yet. This Activision Blizzard deal has to close first. And I think he'll want to make sure it's on track to where he wants it to be. And the thing is he doesn't strike me like the biggest thing with execs when I look at is what could they do next, or are they just going to retire? Right? Like Sean Layden rode off into the sunset, works for a private holdings company, and seems to be quite enjoying a larger amount of free time than he had before. So more power to him, right? Jack Tretton did a very similar approach as well.
Jack Tretton went off in the best possible way. It was, hey, I set the PS4 up, I set it all up, and I got launched, and now I'm out.
Yeah, and Don Matrick is still on missing and plastered on the side of every Xbox Series S that's released. Have you seen this man? But I don't think the Phil Spencer era is necessarily over yet. I think we're definitely getting closer to the end because I can't think of a gaming exec that has held a position the height that he has for as long. But with that being said, his position has changed dramatically from what it was.
I think we're at the end personally. I think for him, I don't think he's going to leave Microsoft necessarily, but I think he'll take a completely different position.
I definitely
where it's okay, Sarah Bond is like the top of the board there, and he's just kind of like this weird, what's what I'm looking for, advisory role kind of thing. Like, oh yeah, or like do what Shuhei Yoshida does. Like, oh yeah, I focus on doing like smaller games and checking up with people and doing that kind of thing. I could see him taking a role like that and kind of stepping aside and letting her take over the reins.
Yeah.
But it's been building for a couple of years. But I just feel like for him, he'll wait until the Activision Blizzard deal is done. And then maybe like 6 months afterwards, drop out.
Yeah. And the thing is I'm really confident in Xbox's direction under Sarah Bond. She's an incredibly smart woman who seems to understand the audience very well. And she has that delivery. She has that stage presence as well. Like, it's very rare you find execs that can get the job done while also having stage presence. And she seems to have both. And honestly, when you want to talk diversity, one of the largest gaming companies in the world being ran by a, POC woman would be a massive step forward for, gaming conversation in general. And like I said, she's just perfectly fit for the job. And I think that's one of the best things is because if they just pick Sarah Bond up randomly, like 6 months from now, it's like she's replacing Phil Spencer. You'd never seen her before. You get all these freaking dough heads that are like, oh, you just picked her because she's a woman and blah, 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 blah. But like she's been active and working on stuff publicly for years with them now. And like, I challenge you to find someone who would be a better fit.
I literally can't think of anybody on the Xbox who could do it.
No.
So,
like, she's the future. I just don't know when that future comes.
Yeah. I think it's sooner rather than later. Like, this might be the last year for Phil Spencer. Like, at the end of the year, they announce, hey, I'm going out in the sunset. Maybe he gets announced for, like, oh, the Game Awards, gets an award for, like, ushering Xbox in, gets a Game of the Year award for Starfield or something. And it's like, I did it. I did my job. Like I got everybody through the finish line here, and it left Xbox in a better position than it was.
But. See, I think what makes me sad, I don't mean to segue this, but like we're hitting that point with a lot of people that I grew up looking up to in the gaming industry of hitting retirement points.
Yep.
Like you have Todd Howard talking about retirement now. You have to wonder when Pete Hines is going to call it quits. You start.
I don't know if Todd's ever going to retire for real.
Like you think he's going to be one of those dudes that still comes into the studio 2 days a week? Todd, you retired. No, it's fine. We're making Elder Scrolls 7.
No, I retired, so no more meetings for me, but I get to do what I want.
Yeah, but like it just makes me sad because like you start hearing some of these guys like Josh Sawyer's talked about, winding it down sooner rather than later, and like the lead CEO of Obsidian, who's been leading that studio since its founding, talking about he's got like 1 or 2 games left in him. It's just really sad. Like I'm not depressed that there is a wealth of talent underneath them that's going to do amazing things. It's
those are great, but it's an emotional thing. Like
yeah, but like I've been watching Todd Howard come out on stage and say the most ridiculous PR stuff for like 15 years at this point.
Oh, dude, the tradition still continues. They even said the line too. Remember, like from Skyrim, like that mountain, you can go climb it, and it was like, you see that moon, you can go to it. Like, oh my god,
I was in stitches, dude. But we'll get to Starfield after. But yeah, no, I think Sarah Bond's a great fit. Love to see it when it happens, and yeah.
I want to blitz through a couple of things, like just because there were a lot of there's some smaller announcements that were here that I just don't think we're going to talk about very much. So the Spiritfarer devs came out with 33 players or whatever? I forget what it's called.
33 Immortals. 33
Immortals. Looks cool. Fine.
I ain't got.
It's like getting a raid with 33 people. So. Fine. Let's talk about. I'm literally just scrolling through stuff because I know there's some things we're going to talk about for a while. They're doing a Fallout 76 expansion for Atlantic City. They showed absolutely nothing about it. So, fine. I want to play it, obviously, but I'm like, all right. I just hope it's not like the Pit expansion where you got to like do this stuff to be able to go there in the first place. It's just like, hey, no, you can go to this location and have a good time. I'd like to see that. Capcom showed off a new IP called Path of the Goddess. Look fine.
It's definitely not up my alley, but I know a ton of people that are going to love it.
Yeah. Forza Motorsport.
Cargo's vroom.
Yep. Coming out October 10th. Overwatch 2. God, I'm so sick of Overwatch. They're doing their thing in August. They're doing their first set of story missions. Fine. Whatever. Let's see. There's Still Wakes the Deep from the Chinese Room. The creator, not even the creators, the abusers of the walking sim. Just
Dear Esther and Gone to the Rapture.
Yeah, like, ugh. Sorry, I just not at all interested. Cool environment. Don't like the devs. Sorry. Dragons of Hinterberg looked interesting. I know a lot of people thought this was like really confusing with Hi-Fi Rush because it's a similar like cell shaded vibe,
Mm-hmm.
but it's skateboarding, sword fighting, looks fun.
Yeah.
Then we had Towerborn from Stoic. I was so excited about that one, but I don't have anything else to really talk about it though, just because I was like, it's the creators of Banner Saga, and they have a partnership with Xbox, and so they're making Towerborn.
Yep.
I'm like, hell yeah,
Not to be confused with Bloodborne.
yeah. But yeah, that's kind of the blitz of just random little stuff. So, back to the other part here, Nick. How we have confirmed the Xbox is clearly marketing to you and I exclusively at this point.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like dude, Payday 3 launching in Game Pass. Hell yes.
I don't even understand. Like, there's someone that's listening to our Discord calls and is like, yeah, we're gonna need to get a Payday 3 on Xbox Game Pass. Like, I know it doesn't seem random, and I understand what the play is here. Like, I understand the marketing play because Payday 3 is gonna be on Game Pass for like, I'm gonna say like 6 months to a year. People are gonna play the hell out. They're gonna play the hell out of it, and then when they go to pull it off, a bunch of people are gonna buy it because it's part of their game rotation. I totally know that's what they're doing. It's really smart.
They get because that's the whole thing with them is that they are basically a free to play model, which is how much stuff they have that comes out like in terms of DLC and just little cosmetic stuff. There's like literally it is so much shit involved there. It's like a no shit they're going to be doing this. Like, like get everybody on board, get everybody used to it, and just hope it goes off from there.
Yep.
So no, I'm excited. I'm like yes. And it looks like they made it similar in terms of art style to like the current Rainbow Six Siege, where it's going to age better than the other one did.
Oh god, the
Payday 2 aged terribly.
Yeah, if you're not playing that joint on PC, it is rough out here.
Just flat looking textures constantly, and they never update any of that. So it's like
every gun feels like you're lugging a cement brick around with you. And I think that was the big thing I took away because I rewatched that trailer a couple times. The speed of that game looks like it's a lot faster paced than Payday 2. Like Payday 2 is a very slow, like it's hectic, but it's not like fast paced. That looks quick.
Yep. And they're bringing back old maps again because I definitely saw a jewelry store in there.
I definitely saw the bank job, but what was interesting is there was actual vehicles that people were getting out of and that you could duck in to grab ammo and stuff. Like, I'm interested. Like, it looks good. And, like, I know a lot of people are like, oh, it's a reskin and blah, blah. I don't care. I legitimately don't care. Like, I just want to rob banks with my friends, okay? FBI, chill.
All right, let's see. Then we got the Persona news that already got leaked already.
Yep.
So we know that Persona 3 Reload is coming out. Going to be launching on Game Pass.
Atlas is beating the Persona horse into the ground.
Yeah. Then they had a new Persona game, and that was Persona Mastery, coming out in November. Also going to be on Game Pass. That's there.
Tactica,
that's what it was.
Yeah.
Let's see. And then we got to look at Avowed, which I didn't think Avowed was going to be here necessarily. I was like, it'd be really nice if it was here. I'd really enjoy that. But then to have them coming out and showing off Avowed, I was like, hell yes. I was like, please give me that release date. Please be this year, but it's going to be next year. But I'll take it.
Yeah, it looked good too. I know some people were. It's funny how we see discussions all the time about how games change and everything else. And how people were like, oh, I thought this was going to be tonally like bleaker, like darker. And I'm like, Obsidian really doesn't do dark.
I mean, they could be in a dark setting, sure, but they like look like as an example, look at Fallout New Vegas versus Fallout 3,
Mm-hmm.
which is a question every Fallout fan has been talking about for the last 20 years. So, Fallout 3 was a very dark, bleak setting with just like a little bit of fun, just a little bit, like maybe 20% fun,
Yeah.
like in terms of just random fun vibes that you would just get. But New Vegas was all right, 60% dark, but 40% just wild, wacky fun. So it's a for them not to do that and say, okay, yeah, we're gonna be like totally dark entirely. Just it wasn't gonna happen. So
I also
I didn't think the art style change is something interesting for people because it did look visually darker initially, but now it's like really brighter.
mm-hmm.
I think they did do a shift in terms of not expectation, but what's the word I'm looking for? Scale.
Mm-hmm.
Because they were talking about before is like we weren't shooting to be Skyrim, we were shooting to do like Outer Worlds, where it's not so much about it being really huge as much as it is just really deep. Which that's Obsidian's bread and butter. That's what they do best.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing that people don't realize is like Obsidian has always been about depth, and Bethesda Game Studios has always been about expansive size.
Depth versus breadth.
Yeah. And like different people are going to vibe with different things, but what I appreciate about Avowed is like when they're like, we're trying to make it like Outer Worlds. I'm like, so y'all are going to have multiple playthroughs and you're going to respect my time on each one of those playthroughs. Appreciate you.
Solid 20 to 50 hours, somewhere in there.
Yeah. Like that's a perfectly reasonable amount of time for an RPG.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be, hey, here's 186 hours like, what was it? Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I was like, Jesus Christ, kill me now.
No, but I thought it looked really good. I liked the tone they were going for. I like the magic use. The magic use looks really interesting. Mm-hmm. And I think they did a really good job of tonally avoiding Skyrim.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, my biggest concern with this is, like, was this going to feel like a Skyrim clone? And it doesn't look like it. It's kind of like Outer Worlds. Like, there's inherently something Fallout-y about Outer Worlds, but when you play Outer Worlds, you don't think it's Fallout.
Yeah, no, you don't. It's its own feeling.
Yeah, and I think Avowed is going to be the same thing. It's going to be Skyrim feely, which, put that on a box art. Avowed, Skyrim feely.
You have a whole generation of kids now, Nick, that aren't going to understand the reference.
Man, there's a whole generation of kids that don't understand the marketing hype behind it's Skyrim with guns.
I can't believe they put that on box art still. I still can't believe that.
Man, when they had the trailer, like, you remember when they made Far Cry 3 like bonus DLC for 5, and they did the announcement. They had the big announcer guy come through and be like, it's like Skyrim with guns all over again. I'm like, literally the best quote that's ever been made about video games, basically.
Well, outside of that, it's the Dark Souls of blank.
Oh, God. Yeah, that too. But yeah, I think Avowed's going to be interesting. I know some people were kind of worried about the combat looking a little choppy, and I kind of agree with that. It did look a little choppy, but they've still got till 2024 to smooth things out, and we all know that game trailers feature a build that's usually older, so they've got a good chunk of time to smooth things out.
I will say the fire effects look kind of iffy.
Yeah.
Like there's the one on the sword. I was like, eh.
And I don't know what it was, but when I I know it was a premiere, but when I watched it on my TV, that bear looked really bad. But then when I watched it on my computer on 4K,
yeah.
but then when I watched it on my 4K computer monitor, it looked great. So I don't know what's going on with the bear.
Yeah. I think it's the mushroom fungus stuff on it. I think that's what threw it off.
Yeah.
But anyway, we got a couple things to cover. We got Sea of Thieves doing a team up, which you predicted. I was surprised about that. I was like, oh my gosh, you were right. They're doing a team up with Monkey Island, and that's coming out this summer. So, I mean, that was I wish I had saw it, but hey, I'm just mad it wasn't the Muppets. If it was the Muppets, I would have been done.
Listen, I was so mad because when they pulled Sea of Thieves out and they're like in collaboration with LucasArts, I'm so mad that I didn't think of Monkey Island. I was sitting there going, how the fuck are they going to do Star Wars and Sea of Thieves?
It could have been Indiana Jones and Sea of Thieves.
See, that'd be interesting too, but like it was literally, I always forget like the point and click adventures are LucasArts games.
Yep.
So like, yeah, that's really cool. Like that's a really good crossover. Like we were sitting there going, well, what could you cross over Sea of Thieves with? Monkey Island.
So, all right, that looked good. We had Flight Sim. They're doing another expansion.
It's not an expansion. All new game, according to the press release.
All new game. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
All right. Well, but yeah, it looks like there's actual missions, like doing cargo drops and rescue missions and stuff. I was like, that's pretty cool. There's a reason to fly from point A to point B.
See, I'm actually going to play that because there's a purpose to it now. I can't just fly for leisure.
Yeah.
Like, I just can't just fly somewhere leisurely. Like, they're like, fly across the Canadian Rockies. I'm like, why would you want to?
Hey, they're getting closer. I mean, that was basically what the appeal of Elite Dangerous to me was, just doing mundane tasks. Like, all right, I'm going to fly from here to here.
I mean, I can't say anything. I play State of Decay 2, which is me picking up supplies from one house and bringing it back to my house. So.
We got Hellblade 2. So they just wrapped shooting, and so we know it's coming out in 2024 now.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say, graphically, this thing looks amazing. I was just blown away by it. Unreal Engine 5 lighting was amazing. Totally stunned by it. A little disappointed it didn't show like anything that people would be like, oh yeah, this is gameplay. Like, or even because this was very clearly a cinematic moment.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, okay, fine. But I mean, people wanted to see more of a gameplay segment for this. We already knew the graphics were going to look amazing. We already knew that part. I didn't need any more reassurance on that.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because like I'm kind of interested because like everyone's been asking Xbox to make a cinematic experience. But I'm interested. My interest in Hellblade 2 is how much do they balance the cinematics with the gameplay? Because we've seen very little gameplay and a lot of cinematics so far. So, and the first game had combat, wasn't the main focus of the game, and honestly, I think it was one of the weakest points of the game besides the puzzles. The puzzles drove me nuts. But I'm interested to see what the direction is, but unfortunately, like this trailer, as cool as it was to see, it's kind of this diminishing return with Ninja Theory where I'm like, yeah, you did a really cool thing. It looks really good, but like, what's going on? Like, we get it. She hears voices. What else is going on?
Really a surprise there, but it was fine.
It's fine. It's coming 2024. We'll see more soon, I'm sure. I'm sure we'll see something at the Game Awards, maybe.
Yep, probably. I think we'll probably get a release date with that one. So, yeah. All right, Like a Dragon 8. Something you called.
Yes, I did.
It's been really iffy about it. Now, this one I wasn't really sure. Is this one launching in Game Pass?
It doesn't seem to have the marketing on it yet, but you never know.
So, but yeah, no, this is one thing Sega definitely turned out for Xbox. They were like, all right, we're gonna make sure you get everything. So that was impressive for them. So they just having them there did really well for boosting Xbox's credibility, which is what they needed. So, and not just the one flash in the pan, like, yeah, we put the old Yakuza games here, whatever. But no, they put the whole thing out there. So that was good on their part. So let's see. We had we got the Elder Scrolls Online Necrom thing, which was just an obvious thing.
Oh, hold on. I got Inferno. Yes, it's 8. Technically speaking, it's Like a Dragon 8 because it is technically the 8th installment in the Yakuza series. Because Like a Dragon is 7, this is 8. For some reason they're doing this weird thing with the prequel game where it's not part of the numbered series, but this is a really Sega ass thing to do. So
yeah.
It's like trying to figure out the Persona games.
All right. Let's see. We got so this is like a really confusing thing that they did, which didn't make any sense, but was so welcome. Having a Starfield trailer right before the Starfield Direct was like, this thing looked so good and amazing. I was like, oh my god, what are we like? That little, that little like 1 minute blip,
yeah,
the little thing that they showed, that was so good, and I was like, oh my god, this looks amazing. And then it was like, oh yeah, you're gonna be seeing more of this afterwards, about 45 minutes worth. And I was like, it didn't have to be here, but I did like it.
It was funny because the tonal shift in our watch party for it was hilarious because everyone was like, oh man, we don't need to see it. We're gonna see it at the end. And by the end of it, we're like, we want to see more.
Yep. Then we got Justin from Life is Strange, their developer. Don't nod.
Yep.
Looks good. Fun climbing adventure. For me, that's like those weird, quirky little indie games I just get into. I'm like, yeah, I like that. Show me more. I'm good.
Yeah,
I'm in.
It was really colorful, and it looks like it has a good blend of like combat and climbing, and it'll be interesting how they handle the climbing.
Yeah.
So definitely check it out.
Then we got Cyberpunk 2077, Phantom Liberty. Have you seen what they're doing to this?
Do you mean the complete overhaul of the base game that's
Yes.
coming with the DLC? Yeah. Insanity.
That is wild. So like my question though is like, if they're completely overhauling it, is this more of like a, hey, this is the way the game should play from the very beginning, like when you boot up the game, it's like, all right, this is the new system from now on? Or is this like a, hey, you have the DLC, you went to this one area and this one thing happens to you, so yours is different?
No, as far as I'm understanding, it's making it sound like there's a separate, like, I don't want to be quoted on this because I'm not 100%, but it's making it sound like there's a separate patch for just Cyberpunk where it's changing a bunch of the core gameplay aspects permanently.
Yeah.
And that's wild. Like, don't get me wrong, Cyberpunk needed the work. Like, absolutely needed this level of work and care put into it. I'm actually honestly surprised to see CD Projekt Red put this much work into it, though. Like, after how terribly it dropped off a cliff, like, yes, it was super successful out the gate, but, like, sales dropped. Like, they basically only sold, I think it was, like, 1 million copies the year after in total across the entire year, and that was with it being $30 almost permanently. But they sat there, they patched it, they fixed things, they adjusted things, they added new things, all through these 3 free upgrades, and now they're hitting hard with a heavy story-based expansion that looks really good. And I think what I really love about this, like, Andy Robinson from VGC tweeted out about he was really surprised how low-key CD Projekt Red is being with all this work they're putting into it. But I really think it's brilliant because the problem with Cyberpunk was they couldn't shut up about what they were going to deliver, and then they didn't deliver it.
Yep. So this is like this is like a quick little list of just the stuff they're going to be changing. They completely redone their perks and skills, completely rebuilt enemy and friendly AI, a completely new cyberware system with a new capacity to see how much you can actually handle before you go cyber psycho. Basically emulating what the Edge Runners anime did, where they really focus on that way more than like the game actually does. New vehicle combat, whole new police system, weaponized vehicles now, so like you can use your katana on a motorcycle. Yeah, a new relic skill tree. There's going to be vehicles that beforehand, if you want to get a vehicle, you had to get one from a fixer. Now you can buy it through a website. Excuse me.
Bless you.
Car chases. The UI is being completely redone. New courier missions. You can hack cars to steal them. Dynamic faction fights in the open world. Redone loot. Redone difficulty. More enemy variety. And they have a quote from like one developer who said like, "This is the game we should have launched." And they were very clear about that. So this looks amazing. I'm always down for this. So I mean, I'll do another replay.
Well, see, it's funny because I'm missing one series of achievements, one story path that I'm missing to 100% Cyberpunk. And when this update and this LCL drops, I'm gonna just knock it off the list, front to back it. Because like this looks phenomenal. Because like, let me tell you, like, police was just something you avoided.
Yeah,
like at launch, like police was like, if you shot a police officer, you might as well just give up because they just infinitely spawned.
Yep. But that's the thing too. I think with them is like, unless you actively hit a police officer, weren't even a problem.
No,
like you could do anything you wanted. Essentially, you could kill anybody, just go on a murder spree, and as long as you didn't hurt a police officer, they didn't care. Just like real life. So. All right. We had Cities Skyline 2 coming out in October, coming to Game Pass.
Nice.
Atlas announced a new game, Metaphor Ray Fantasio, which is going to be their new franchise. So that's cool. And this is so I'll throw this part out there. So they announced a 1 terabyte Xbox Series S.
Yep.
Cool. But the big surprise was Clockwork Revolution.
Mm-hmm.
That was a big surprise. That was like, holy shit. Dude, I was amazed. I was like, I couldn't believe not only was In Exile there, but to have a game that looks near done and a first-person shooter that's not even from a studio that's only really done isometric RPGs. That looked amazing, dude. Oh my god,
astounding.
Like this is the moment we've been waiting for, man.
Listen, I tell you what, honestly, it was like Microsoft bought Obsidian and In Exile, and they're like, "Oh, cool, we're part of Xbox Game Studios. We get to make our RPGs and everything else." And then they bought Bethesda, and everyone's like, "Oh, Bethesda RPGs are the biggest and the best." And In Exile and Obsidian were like, "Hold up, let's cook." And they're just nailing everything. Like my favorite part of that whole reveal is the robotic red carpet with the dude on it, and it's just walking him forward and then walks him backwards. I'm like, oh, just man, like that game's gonna be great. Like stylistically, the tone of it, the story they're gonna tell, it's gonna be good. It was definitely a surprise because we definitely did not think that we were gonna see In Exile's Unreal Engine 5 game.
Man, I'm blown away by this, man. I don't even know what to say. Like this is what Microsoft needed, dude.
Mm-hmm.
This is what they needed. It was now we're seeing like, okay, these studios who have been working on projects, they're showing us what those projects are. They are single player games, which has been the big critique for Microsoft for years, and we are getting them. And not only that, but we didn't have any Gears or Forza at all. It was nice.
Well, we had Forza, but it was just a release date.
Oh, sorry, I meant Gears or Halo. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think what really nailed it for me too is like it wasn't like, hey, here's franchises we've established either. It's like here's a new IP from inXile, here's a new IP from Obsidian. Bethesda's working on its first new IP in like 20 years.
Here's Compulsions. Here's this one. Here's this one. This one. Like this was kind of like, for me, it was kind of on par with the E3 of Dreams 2016 for PlayStation. Where it was, hey, we're going to announce a ton of shit. And we're going to announce a bunch of things that aren't even necessarily coming true right now, but things we know you'll be excited about. This is what it felt like.
Yep.
But knowing that this isn't them just shooting their entire load and then we're going to see more. It's like they left like half their studios were left out of this event.
Yep, they did 11 first-party games showcase, and there was a ton of studios that didn't show up. The benefit of having a massive first-party studio stable, though.
Mm-hmm. So this was really cool. I was really excited for this. So, but yeah. So I guess the question we'll ask now is, what? Let's talk about Starfield. Let alone do we forget about Starfield, sir? Let's ask this way. So Nick, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being I would rather sacrifice my newborn child to a groundhog that hasn't eaten in 6 months than play this game. And 10, I would gladly sell my child to play Starfield. Where are we on the scale?
Well, listen, I've got 3 kids, so if I do 2, can I play it super early? No, like, listen, I am, like, it's well documented. Both of us are huge Bethesda fanboys, for lack of a better word here. We critique them, but we definitely love their stuff through the roof. But listen, like, I was kind of lukewarm heading into this. I was like, man, Starfield's got to look good. And, like, when they said they were taking a year to polish, I kind of, like, rolled my eyes. Because how many games have we heard we're going to take a year to polish? Right? CD Projekt Red did that with Cyberpunk. We heard that with Days Gone. We heard it with Halo Infinite. It was kind of like, okay, yeah, sure. You guys are taking a year to polish. And then they actually showed Starfield, and I was like, damn, okay, you guys actually took a year to polish. Like, they are definitely more on the Final Fantasy 16 and Zelda Tears of the Kingdom end of the we spent a year polishing this game, because side by side, it's phenomenal. And, like, what they showcased combat-wise, NPC-wise, I never felt, and it's been the first time I can say this in a long time, I never felt like they were hiding something. Like, They shared so much information that could have possibly had red flags in it, but it didn't.
No, it's a good point. I think the only thing that they didn't talk about in that 45-minute showcase is they did clarify interviews afterwards is the resolution, not the resolution thing, but the frame rate situation. Mm-hmm. Because there's been that discussion that's been going on for a while about whether or not it's going to be 60 FPS or 30. They came out and they said on Series X it's going to be 30 FPS 4K, and on Series S it's going to be 1440p 30 FPS. So they made that clear, but they also kind of pointed out saying, hey, look, the issue is not that we get the 30, it's that like it's not consistent at 60, so we're going to keep it at 30 locked. So I think that's a good call overall with just how many systems there are. I would much rather prefer that they sacrifice resolution and such to get it to 60, but I understand the thought process and choice on that, especially because of just how many systems are involved in this game, with not only the building factor and the fact that you can just go pretty much anywhere you want.
Well, and
And
I saw John Linneman from Digital Foundry kind of talking about this, but the difference between overloading GPUs versus CPUs. And I don't want to misquote him dreadfully, but something like Starfield, where you can interact with everything, like you can mine every rock, you can cut down every tree, and everything else. When you have that level of interactability, that's a really processing heavy idea. And we're in a world where we still have games where you shoot an NPC and kill that NPC, that body disappears 10 seconds later.
Yeah.
And you're talking about like sandwich pirates where all these sandwiches are interactive. And like, I feel like no matter how powerful of a box you cram this thing into console wise, you are never getting 60 FPS with all the systems at play. And like, don't get me wrong, I would love it to be at 60 FPS. I do believe it would be smoother. But at the same time, I'm not going to sit out here and lie and be like, I'm not going to play it because the frame rate's not high enough.
I mean, like, there were games like I think you could do better with, like Gotham Knights and such, but there's so much involved here. Well, I know I got in an argument earlier today about they're gonna have 120 FPS mode for Spider-Man. Sure. It's like, but look, it's gonna be better. I'm like, dude, Spider-Man 2018 did not even have a dynamic day-night cycle. Shut up.
Yeah. Well, here's my argument too, is like, depending on what you're working on within your world, what's interactive within your world, what's going on within your world, and the sacrifices you make to get to that 60 FPS. Because I played Horizon Forbidden West. I played about 10 hours of Horizon Forbidden West, and I played it on frame rate mode to start.
Mm-hmm.
And while the frame rate was great in combat, when you were exploring, texture pop-in happened a lot.
Yeah.
So
that's super annoying.
Yeah, that's super annoying when you're exploring stuff. So I eventually stuck it on fidelity mode and played, I think it's at 4K 30 locked. Yeah, it's locked, I'm pretty sure. Mm-hmm. And I actually preferred it because the pop-in just didn't happen. Yeah. So like for Starfield, pop-in would be obnoxious. So if I could avoid world pop-in and everything else for dumping it to 30 instead of 60, then so be it. It's a sacrifice that had to be made and everything else. I don't have the development background to sit there and say Bethesda should have done better.
So I would also say it's really nice to see that this year-long delay made the game look definitively better.
Mm-hmm.
Because we were talking about this before too. They had like screenshots and or clips of just like the original characters that they showed off, and then this one, like this update, when they showed off the Freestar Collective Cowboy Town, dude, that thing looks so amazing. It looked like concept art. I was like, what the hell is this? This looks amazing. I was blown away by this. And if they keep this up, that's going to be even better. I'm just so excited to see what this game turns into. And also teasing you're going to get superpowers at the end is just like, what?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh my God.
All of a sudden time stops and people start floating and then they end it. And they're like, yeah, so that was the Bethesda Starfield Direct. And you're like, wait, no, Todd, what? You had 3 minutes to tell me about plant and vegetation, but you can't tell me about the floating powers?
I think it was like an EMP thing, so you can eliminate gravity on that ship. I think that's what it is, but I don't know for certain. So
who knows? You might have space alien artifacts. Who the hell knows what?
Yeah.
But
all right. So final question, the question that matters, Nick.
Yep.
what do you give it score wise? Like if you had to get, let's do a letter grade.
Letter grade. I'm gonna give it an A.
Give it an A.
I'm gonna give it an A. The only downsides I had is I would like to have seen a little bit more Fable in longer clips. Like instead of the 3 second snippets, give me like 10-second snippets instead. And Hellblade, I definitely wanted to see something different.
Yeah.
I'm glad it was there. I'm glad it's got a release window, but I definitely wanted to see something different. Otherwise, if this Xbox showcase didn't excite you for the next like year and a half of Xbox, I don't know what they can do to get you excited.
Yeah. See, I give it like a B+. I thought it was a really solid lineup. They showed off tons of games. Really excited for that. My only problems come from what wasn't there. And they for all I know, because they're doing an event on the 13th tomorrow with more stuff to talk about. So, I mean, for all I know, this could be changed on a moment's notice. I don't know. But little things like we didn't get any update whatsoever for the initiative. And I'm kind of like, that game doesn't exist to me anymore. Like I'm at the point now where it's like, you guys tease this so much. You guys have had over 5 years of development time and you have nothing to show for it, at least to the public. I understand stuff happened, but at the same time, Obsidian's cranked out how many games now? Fable's almost done, coming out next year from Playground. I'm kind of like, what excuse do you have? But I understand they can't really show that on a show necessarily, so all right. I was a little disappointed with how they handled the Atlantic City update by not showing anything at all for it and just saying it's gonna happen. Yay! I'm like, all right, fine. It's hard to get excited about it because it's like they haven't it's not like they talked about Atlantic City or anything. Like it's not like hyped up or anything. So
didn't they do the same thing with the Pit DLC? Didn't they do like a static trailer when they announced the Pit too? And they were like,
they showed like little background stuff, but we've been to the Pit before in the Fallout universe, so it was more of a teaser.
Yeah,
but like the Atlantic City, I don't think we've ever been to Atlantic City before, so this is entirely new. So I'm like, all right.
I have to wonder, like, because I don't doubt they physically have stuff to show in regards to Atlantic City. Because
they showed pictures of it later.
Yeah,
but it's kind of like.
But I have to wonder if like they feel like Fallout 76 is that like it's a successful game, but it's that ugly redheaded stepchild that they're like, yeah, we support this, but like we don't want to give it too much airtime.
Maybe.
Because like that's what it feels like. Because like Elder Scrolls Online and the Fallout 76 one were literally like 30 seconds of them going, hey, look, this exists.
It was very quick.
But I agree. I wish they'd actually shown something, even if they showed the static images.
Yeah. It's really hard to get interested, so. All right. But yeah, so that wraps everything up here. Anything else you want to cover before we get out?
Nope.
All right.
Good time of showcases. People go watch Ubisoft Forward. Apparently there's blue avatar people, and apparently it's not terrible, so.
Yeah, it's funny just kind of watching how that's playing out. But they're also talking about how almost all the games they've shown from there are 30 FPS as well. So it's like, okay.
Yeah, Assassin's Creed Mirage, 30 FPS in a contained Assassin's Creed world. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll see.
So.
But final thoughts? Outro?
Hey, put Warhammer into my veins and let's play Payday 2 and hey, let's play Starfield, man. I'm ready to go. I'm excited.
Oh man, that's gonna be a brutal like month time period of games, dude.
That is gonna be rough.
Like, yeah, it's going to be tough. But yeah. All right, this has been Cheat Code Radio episode number 22. Don't forget to drop a like on this video if you're watching on YouTube and check out the Spotify. And appreciate everyone that stopped by the chat as always. And if there's stuff that you'd like to see us do or you'd like to, talk about on the show, don't forget to drop us a line. You can find me on Twitter at NicholasGPMedia. And of course, all my written work at lordsofgaming.net. And of course, you can stalk Ivan everywhere at Anchorman V2. And Ivan is officially in vacation mode, so I wish you well on your vacation.
Same to you next week, sir. We're gonna have some fun. So
yeah, I will not be sober the
next.
You
and I have one overlap vacation day. I got next Monday off, so
drunken podcast. Tuesday turns into another vacation day for Ivan. All right, we'll see you guys next episode on Cheat Code Radio, episode number 23 at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time next week. Bye for now.